Hello everybody and welcome to the weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. This week we've got 5 new titles on the list, so 5 managed to hang in there, which is pretty good considering how much movement we've had on the list in the last couple of weeks. Let's see what we have this week. At number 10 with 7,623 copies sold, volume number 15 of Netgame no Yome wa Onna no Koishitau to Omotta. Which, if you're an English speaker like myself, you can much easier say as, and you thought there is never a girl online. There are no licenses for the light novel series. The 12-episode anime was licensed by Funimation and was available on Crunchyroll. I didn't check this morning to see if it's still there. Teenager Hideki Nishimura plays a massively multiplayer online role-playing game called Legendary Age. But one day, he proposes online to a girl who tells him that she's really a man. So he swears off online marriages. 2 years later, he's been involved with a guild and eventually accepts an in-game marriage offer from his persistent guildmate, Ako. When the guild has their first ever real-life meeting, Hideki is shocked to discover that his teammates are not only all girl gamers, but they also attend his school. The story follows their adventures as they form a school club to play the game, while Hideki tries to help Ako, who is infatuated with Hideki as his game character, to try to separate fantasy from reality. At number 9 with 8,381 copies sold, it's the latest volume of Shounen Onmyouji. Now, there's no license for the light novel series of this. There was a 26-episode anime which aired October 2006 to March of 2007. Now, it was originally licensed by Ganeon, or Ganeon, I think it's Ganeon. They were a company that was attached to, I can't remember which Japanese company they were attached to, but they closed up shop and pulled out of North America and English licensing. Eventually, Funimation picked up the license for this series, so it is available officially in English, the 26-episode anime. The series is set in the Heian era. Abe no Masahiro is the grandson of the great Onmyouji Abe no Seimei. Seimei, who passed his teachings on to his grandson, Masahiro, who has lost his sixth sense and the ability to see spirits. Masahiro constantly feels resentful for being in his grandfather's shadow. Even so, one day, Masahiro meets a fox-like creature which he names Mokun, who shows him his true potential powers after fighting a demon. Mokun is actually Toda, who prefers to be called Guren. He is one of the 12 Shikigami called the Shuchou, who has pledged his loyalty to Seimei and is helping Masahiro to surpass his grandfather. Masahiro's dream to surpass his grandfather may not be realized easily, as not only does he have to convince the other Shuchou that he is Seimei's true successor, he must also increase his power in order to stop demons coming from China, the other parts of Japan, and the underworld, as well as rival Onmyoujis who want to destroy Japan. He also has to keep his promise to protect Princess Akiko of the Fujiwara clan. So kind of a paranormal, historical type drama. It actually sounds pretty cool, but again, no license for the light novels for us in English. At number 8 with 9,647 copies sold, volume number 20 of Sword Art Online. This one's hung on the list for quite a while. It is only 128 copies shy of the breaking 200,000 copies mark, which I imagine it will probably do next week. Of course, the manga, the light novels, the spin-off light novel series, Sword Art Online Progressive, all available in English. The light novels are being published by Yen On. Volume 11 has already been released in English, so we're not horribly behind. So right now, of course, Sword Art widely available. They have just announced in the past couple weeks that they're doing a season 3 of the anime, which is going to cover the Alicization arc. So if you're reading the light novels and you don't want to be spoiled by the anime, you're probably going to have to hold off on watching that third season. If you don't care, then have at it. So yeah, and of course we've got the first couple of seasons. They've all streamed on Crunchyroll. And we also have the movie Ordinal Scale that played in theaters here in North America and is going to be released here as well. So very easy to get your fix of Sword Art Online. There's even a spin-off light novel series set in the Gungale Online world and feature characters like that are not the main characters of the Sword Art series. And even that, it was just announced, is getting an anime adaptation. But of course, we don't have the light novels for that series. But I wouldn't be surprised now that there's an anime announced for it if we do end up getting those light novels. I bet that comes next. At number 7, with 9,704 copies sold, it's Kekkai Sensen 2, which is Blockade Battlefront. Now, this is actually a manga series, which we have in English from Dark Horse Comics. There was a 24-episode anime series, which is licensed by Funimation. I'm not sure whether this light novel series is a spin-off, like, we've seen with Attack on Titan, Naruto, and, a bunch of other anime series that they're originally manga and then they do sort of like a couple of light novels that are side stories or build up other characters, or like in the case of Seraph of the End, they're like a prequel series. So I'm not too sure what exactly this light novel is. If you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. There, of course, are no license for the light novels at this point. But Blockade Battlefront centers around the crime-fighting organization Libra and their battles in Hell Salem's Lot, which was formerly New York City. Hell Salem's Lot was created when a portal to the beyond opened, becoming a paranormal melting pot of monsters, magic, and the everyday mundane life, and it is up to Libra to clear the streets of trouble and prevent the horrors of this city from spreading to the outside world. At number 6, with 11,226 copies sold, it is Kokuhaku Yokou Renshuu, a solution for jealousy, the latest volume in this series. This was on the list last week. It's based off the Vocaloid songs by Honeyworks. The series seems to involve characters in a similar high school setting, each dealing with feelings of like unrequited love or having difficulty confessing their feelings to each other. There have been 2 movies based on the band's works that are sort of out of this series. Now, the Crunchyroll streams the first movie, which they have under the title I've Always Liked You. I don't think they have the second one. And there is actually an anime TV special which is coming out. One of you said coming in November, which seems possible. I haven't found an exact release date, but I know that the news was announced earlier this year, so it makes sense that it would be coming out sometime soon. I don't know if we're going to get those anime episodes licensed here. There is no license for the light novel series at this time. At number 5, with 12,451 copies sold, it is volume number 12 of My Youth Romantic Comedy Is Wrong As I Expected. Been on the list for a couple weeks now. It's amassed 161,000 copies basically sold. The light novel is currently being released in English from Yen On. We've had the first 3 volumes released. I've reviewed all of them. Really good series. I really like it. There's a 26-episode anime, which you can currently watch on Crunchyroll, which covered volumes number 1 to 11. It was released under the title of My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU. So if you're looking for My Teenage Romantic Comedy As Wrong As I Expected, you won't find it. But look it up under that title and you can watch it on Crunchyroll now. Or don't watch it because you don't want to spoil the light novels, which is what I'm doing. At number 4, with 13,491 copies sold, volume number 8 of Knights and Magic. Again, another title that was on the list last week. There is a manga which is being simulpubbed by Crunchyroll, so if you have a Crunchyroll premium membership, you can read the manga online on their website. There haven't been any licenses announced for the light novel series. There was a 13-episode anime which streamed on Crunchyroll and is licensed by Funimation, which adapted volumes, according to you guys, 1 to 5. I've held off on watching it because I am hoping that we might get the light novels, but we'll see. There have been no announcements at this point. At number 3, with 14,804 copies sold, volume number 21 of Kino no Tabi, The Beautiful World, or it's also known as Kino's Journey, The Beautiful World. Kind of an interesting situation with this one. So there was an earlier anime adaptation done which ran from April to July of 2003. And then there's been, I think, a couple of like sort of OVA type movies that have been done. Now, this is there's also a new series which is just premiered this month on Crunchyroll. And I guess, so the story, I'll tell you what the story is and then it'll make it easier to explain sort of how these anime are being different now. Destination is a state of mind, a tale of one girl and her bike and the road ahead. Kino wanders around the world on the back of Hermes, her unusual anthropomorphic motorcycle, only staying in each country for 3 days. During their adventures, they find happiness, sadness, pain, decadence, violence, beauty, and wisdom. But through it all, they never lose their sense of freedom. They discover that because of the world's imperfections, it is actually a thing of beauty. So, like I said, so you can tell, like, each volume, I'm guessing, of the light novel covers a different country that Kino visits. And so the anime adapts these journeys. So I guess what's happening is this new anime, it is a fresh start. So if you haven't seen the original anime, don't fret. You don't have to. So what they're doing is they are covering some of the same countries that Kino visited and was adapted in the first anime, but they are including others that were not done in the original anime version. So it's sort of a mishmash of brand new and older storylines that you may be familiar with if you saw the first anime series, but then there will be new material that you've never seen animated before. So little bit different situation with this series, but it sounds like a really cool series and obviously continues to be very popular. 21 volumes done, and yeah, getting a brand new anime series. So yeah, but there's been no license announcement for the light novels, but maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change now that there's this new series, and light novels obviously a lot more of a thing now in English than they would have been back in 2003 when this series first was adapted into anime. At number 2, with 16,304 copies sold, Shinyaku Tawaro Majutsu no Index, volume number 19. So this is actually the spin-off, so it's also known as A Certain Magical Index New Testament. And this is a sequel series to the original A Certain Magical Index. I'm not going to tell you the synopsis for it because it obviously contains spoilers for where the A Certain Magical Index series ends. And even if you're not into reading the light novels, so the original series, A Certain Magical Index, is being released by Yen On. Volume number, I think it's 13, is coming out very soon, I think in October or November. They have actually just announced that they're going to do a 3rd season of the anime, which I think will finish out the light novel series of the original. There has not been an anime yet, obviously, of the sequel series, and we do not have any license announcements for the sequel series. I imagine we won't hear anything about that until Yen finishes A Certain Magical Index, the first one, because obviously, like I said, being a sequel series, it has to come out after Index finishes, so it really doesn't make much sense for Yen On, or really anybody at this point, to license that series until A Certain Magical Index has been completely released in English. Finally, at number 1, with a very commanding 39,990 copies sold, so more than double number 2, it's volume number 12 of Overlord. Ainz manages to keep his skeletal grasp on the number 1 spot. Not too surprising. I think one of you actually said, you're like, I predict next week that this will still be at #1. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. And it turns out we were absolutely correct. So Overlord hanging in there. Now, of course, the light novels are being released from yen on. So volume 12 is out in Japan. Volume 5 just released. Actually, you could maybe see it on the shelf behind me. I've got my copy that I have to review in the next week or two. This is a really, really good series, one of my favorites. There is a 13-episode anime which ran from July to September of 2015. They then have recently this year released 2 compilation movies. So these are telling the same story of the anime, but doing it in 2 movies. And at the end of the at screenings of the second anime movie, they announced that they are doing a second season, which will, of course, adapt more of the light novels. And it is coming out, I believe the date is January of 2018. The original animated series adapted volumes 1 to 3, so only the first 3 volumes. So depending on, like, if this comes out in January, I believe volume 6 is slated to come out around that time as well in English. So if they only do another 3 volumes, we very well may be all caught up. So yeah, so I mean, if you're reading along in the light novels, you may be caught up before the anime even comes out, which is good for me because that's what I prefer to do. But that's me. That's my thing. So those are your top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan for the week of October 2nd to the 8th of 2017. Anybody really surprised that Overlord hung in there for another week? I mean, I'm not really surprised, but I am kind of surprised by the margin between it and #2 that, you know, an Index series, I mean, Index seems to still be very popular and more than double those sales. Now, of course, I don't know when Index came out. It may have come out later on in the week, so it may not, you know, this is Overlord's first full week of sales. But nonetheless, huge sales for Overlord volume number 12, which is great to see because, like I said, it's one of my favorites, and I'm glad to see it doing well in Japan. So that is the list for this week. I will be back next Saturday with another countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. If you're brand new to the channel, like I said, I do this countdown every single week, and I also do a review of 2 to 3 volumes of light novels every week as well. So if you love light novels and you're new here, you should consider subscribing. Thank you all for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.